Once upon a time, in the bustling city of Metropolis, a yellow taxi named Lucky Wheels roamed the crowded streets. Lucky Wheels wasn't just any taxi, it had seen its fair share of adventures and had stories to tell that would make anyone's jaw drop. One warm summer evening, the taxi's driver, a middle-aged man named Jack, received a call for a pickup. He steered Lucky Wheels towards the location, parked by the sidewalk, and waited for his passenger. Moments later, a young woman named Emily emerged from the crowd. She had a nervous yet excited look on her face. She got into the back seat and greeted Jack with a friendly smile. "Hi, I'm Emily," she said. "I need to get to the airport as quickly as possible. My flight is about to depart, and I can't afford to miss it." Jack nodded and hit the gas, propelling Lucky Wheels forward into the sea of honking cars and flashing billboards. As they sped through the city, Emily shared her story. She was a talented musician on her way to a big audition that could potentially change her life. The taxi's interior filled with melodies as she played her violin, practicing for the most important performance of her career. Time was running out, but Jack maneuvered through traffic like a seasoned pro. He assured Emily that they would reach the airport on time. As they approached the terminal, Emily paused her music, a grateful smile on her face. "I can't thank you enough," she said. "You've been a lifesaver." With minutes to spare, they pulled up to the airport entrance. Emily hurriedly paid Jack and grabbed her violin. She rushed into the terminal, the strains of her music still echoing in the taxi. As Jack drove away, he couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. He'd been part of someone's journey, and for a brief moment, their paths had crossed. He knew he'd remember this ride as one of his most unforgettable experiences. Years later, Lucky Wheels continued to roam the city's streets, collecting stories and memories from passengers, but the tale of Emily and her violin remained one of its favorites. The taxi, despite its age, still carried a bit of the magic of that day when it helped a young musician chase her dreams. And so, the adventures of Lucky Wheels, the yellow taxi, continued, one ride at a time, as it crisscrossed the city, making a difference in the lives of those who stepped into its back seat. In the heart of the city, a taxi named City Cruiser zigzagged through the labyrinthine streets. City Cruiser had seen it all: the highs, the lows, the joy, and the heartache. Each day brought a new story, and one particular evening was no exception. The taxi's driver, Sam, received a call from a hotel in the upscale part of town. He pulled up in front of the elegant entrance and waited. Moments later, a man named Daniel emerged from the hotel, looking both distressed and hopeful. Daniel was dressed in a sharp suit, but his disheveled appearance and worried expression told a different story. He climbed into the back seat of City Cruiser and gave the address of a nearby hospital. Sam noticed the unease in his passenger and decided to strike up a conversation. "Rough day, huh?" Sam asked, glancing at the somber-looking Daniel in the rearview mirror. Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with a mixture of emotions. "Yeah, you could say that. I just found out my father is in the hospital. It's pretty serious." Sam offered a comforting smile. "I'm sorry to hear that. Life has its ups and downs, doesn't it?" As they neared the hospital, Sam continued to talk with Daniel, sharing stories of his own life and the experiences he'd had as a taxi driver. Daniel began to open up, and the tension in the car gradually eased. When they reached the hospital, Daniel thanked Sam for not just being a driver but a compassionate listener. He paid the fare and hurried inside to be with his father. Several weeks later, Sam received a call from an unfamiliar number. It was Daniel, calling to express his gratitude. He informed Sam that his father had recovered and was doing much better. Their conversation in the taxi had provided him with a much-needed source of strength during those difficult days. As the years passed, City Cruiser continued to weave through the city streets, carrying passengers to their destinations. Sam never forgot the serendipitous encounter with Daniel and the unexpected bond that had formed between them during that taxi ride. It was a reminder that sometimes a simple conversation in the back of a taxi could make a profound impact on someone's life. And so, the Taxi City Cruiser continued its journey through the bustling city, providing not just transportation but also a listening ear for those who needed it most. Each ride held the potential for a new and unexpected connection, just like the one between Sam and Daniel. In the city that never sleeps, a taxi called Star Cab prowled the neon-lit streets, its driver, Sarah, behind the wheel. Star Cab had earned its name due to the dazzling array of tiny LED lights adorning its interior, creating a mesmerizing starry sky effect for passengers. One quiet midnight, a young man named David flagged down Star Cab. He had a weary look on his face and entered the cab with a heavy sigh. David gave the address of a local park and settled into the back seat, his thoughts heavy with a secret he'd been carrying for far too long. As the cab glided through the empty streets, Sarah noticed the weight on David's shoulders. She decided to break the silence. "Long night?" she asked, her eyes reflecting the starry lights of the cab's interior. David hesitated but then nodded. "Yeah, you could say that. I've got something I need to get off my chest." Sarah, with a sympathetic smile, encouraged him to share. The cab became a sanctuary of sorts, where David felt safe enough to reveal his secret. He spoke about the challenges he had faced and the difficult decisions he had made. The more he talked, the lighter he felt. The cab eventually arrived at the park, and David thanked Sarah for being a compassionate listener. He paid the fare and stepped out of the cab, the weight of his secret now shared and a little less burdensome. Months passed, and Sarah continued to drive Star Cab through the city's nocturnal landscape. One evening, she received a call from a radio station asking her to tune in. It was David, who had anonymously shared his story of the midnight confession on air. He expressed his gratitude for the taxi driver who had listened when he needed it the most. Sarah couldn't help but smile as she listened to David's heartfelt words. Star Cab had played a small but meaningful role in helping someone find solace in their darkest hour. From that day on, Star Cab continued to twinkle through the city, offering a starry haven for passengers who sought a listening ear, a comforting presence, and a way to unburden their souls. And so, the Taxi Star Cab carried on with its nightly voyages, its starry interior a symbol of hope and understanding for those who needed it. Each passenger's story added to the tapestry of the city's nighttime tales, proving that sometimes a taxi could be more than just a mode of transportation, it could be a sanctuary of solace.